Hello, welcome to the self-learning platform by Dr. Sushma Singh. Today we are going to start Unit 11, Power and Authority, and our topic is Concept of Authority. According to C.J. Friedrich, concept of authority implies a root of command to which obedience is rendered without any inducement, a social fact and a social conduct within an interlinked, independent social structure. This type of analysis implies that the concept of authority is basically a part of classical theory, according to which authority is invariably linked with other concepts of social behavior such as morality, customs, law, natural law, contract, expediency, and utility. Authority is broadly understood as a constitutional means through which one can command compliance or obedience and influence the behavior of another. Whereas power is broadly concerned with the ability to influence behavior, authority is understood as the right to do so. Political philosophers over the decades have differed regarding the fundamental basis on which authority rested. However, they all agree with the view that authority has moral dimensions. Authority is a form of constitutional power and provisions by which one can influence the behavior of others. Power is more concerned with ability, whereas authority is attached with the concept of right. Power is often identified with the persuasion, pressure, threats, coercion, or violence. The constitutional overtone is absent in the case of power, whereas the authority has both legal and moral overtones. Modern sociologists have approached the concept of authority from a different angle. The German sociologist Max Weber considered authority as a form of power, a legitimate power. He analyzes it as the matter of people's belief about its legitimacy. Although theoretically the concept of power and authority are treated as separate identities, empirically, both tend to cross each other's boundaries. While some researchers have considered authority as an essential feature of order and stability, others have looked at it as a symbol of authoritarianism. Basically, both power and authority are mutually exclusive concepts. Authority is widely understood as a means of gaining compliance. On the other hand, power involves the ability to accomplish goals. It might take various forms such as pressure, intimidation, coercion, or violence. Authority and power are instinctively interlinked. Authority is rarely exercised in the absence of power, and power always implies some amount of authority. Max Weber advocated three ideal types of conceptual models, such as traditional, charismatic, and legal rational authority. In traditional society, authority was linked with established customs and traditions. It was closely associated with hereditary systems of power and privileges. The second form of authority is linked with the power of an individual's charisma or personality. Some consider this type of authority as divinely ordained. Sometimes this type of authority could be manufactured through the media and the cult of personality. And this spectra of total power might lead to the growth of authoritarianism in political system. This form of authority has its limitation in liberal democratic political systems. Max Weber identifies the third form of domination as legal rational authority. This form of authority is very significant in modern industrial societies and is often regarded as the symbol of large scale bureaucratic organizations. And it operates through a body of clearly defined rules and procedures. One must not, however, be unaware of the darker side of the onward march of bureaucratic authority, its depersonalized and inhuman social environmental dimensions. Now let us move to the next point, that is the development of the concept of authority. The concept of authority has become a highly controversial aspect of political theory in contemporary international political system. The progressive growth of individual rights and liberties, the worldwide movement for human rights, and the advance of a tolerant or permissive social ethics have encouraged social scientists to look at the concept of authority from a grassroots oriented human angle. This development in the field of social science has ensured a backlash that has encouraged the defenders of authority to highlight its importance. Beginning from the social contrast theory of the 17th and 18th century, there has been a spate of liberal literatures in the field of social science that provided a classical justification for authority. These liberal theories emphasized that in the absence of an established legal authority to ensure order and stability as well as to protect individual liberty and rights, there could be imbalance in the growth of social system. To neutralize the authoritarian trends in society, these liberal thinkers suggested that authority could be constrained through legal, rational forms of constitutional provisions, as the very basis of authority arises from below the consent of the governed. The conservative thinkers, on the other hand, always regarded authority, to quote Roger Scruton, as an essential feature of all social institutions, a natural necessity for leadership, not a result of consent from the governed. The conservative ideas and doctrine became very popular in the late 18th and early 19th centuries. This was indeed a reaction against growing political and economic doctrines that emphasized the basic philosophy of the French Revolution. Not surprisingly, Two streams of conservative ideas got reflected in the social science deliberations of the time. With the growing trends of an authoritarian and reactionary form of conservatism in continental Europe that refused to accept any idea of reform, there emerged in British and America a more flexible form of conservatism that preferred natural change or change in order to conserve in the form of social reforms. The conservative reforms were more in the form of traditions, history, and experience. They perceived the society as a moral community and strongly advocated a strong government to ensure the enforcement of law and order. They advocated non ideological and progma- programmatic interactions between the state and the individual. Since the 1970s, conservative doctrines have been facing strong challenges from the new right. The supporters of the new right believe in economic liberalism or neoliberalism and social conservatism. Neoliberalism is often considered a backlash of the policies of liberal, socialist, and conservative governments of the 20th century. It believes that the breakdown of the social structures is a result of the growth of liberal and permissive values and is in favor of traditional values, social discipline, and restoration of authority. Conservative political philosophy has always been criticized for its support for elite groups and status quo in society. However, against this criticism, conservatives argue that human beings are morally and intellectually imperfect. It is always preferable to depend on the wisdom of the tradition, authority, and a shared culture than to be obsessed with abstract principles of political theory. From their standpoint, authority is an instinct link that ensures social cohesion and strengthens the structures of society. The advocates of conservatism are Edmund Burke, Michel Oakeshott, and Eric Kristol. The advocates of authority strongly plead that an erosion of authority would lead to authoritarianism and totalitarianism. Hannah Arendt argued that a strong traditional authority is indispensable for the growth of moral and social behavior and provides a scene of social identity. In her book, The Origins of Totalitarianism, she suggested that the decline of traditional values and hierarchies was responsible for the advent of Nazism and Stalinism. All said that and done, the concept of authority has not always been accepted without reservations by social scientists. It has been considered a threat to reason and critical understanding. Such apprehensions have been highlighted in psychological studies. William Reich, in his work The Mass Psychology of Fascism, presented the view that the damaging repression brought about by the domination of fathers in traditional authoritarian families could have been responsible for the origin of fascism. Theodore Adorno and others in the book The Authoritarian Personality claimed to have evidence that persons having strong deference for authority have fascist tendencies. This view has been further strengthened by the psychologist Stanley Milgram in his study on the behavior of guards in Nazi concentration camps and the US military during the Vietnam War. Now let us sum up the unit. One of the major questions that often rise in any study of political science is the precise relationship between the power and authority. In Cicero's phrase, power lies with the people, authority in the Senate. His neat contrast between power and authority gets blurred as we analyze the various dimensions of these two concepts over the decades and confront the realities behind these concepts. Interpretations of power and authority have varied with the growth of ideological dimensions of political systems. There are good reasons to suspect the exercise of power and authority in contemporary international systems. Although some of the researchers are very critical of Hans Arnoldt's essay on authority in her book Between the Past and Future, Carl Friedrich's study of tradition and authority, and Robert Nisbet's reflection on the twilight of authority as their reactions to radical egalitarianism and to the Marxist tradition. One must not forget to see the stream of progressivism in these writings. Hannah's revolutionary politics, Friedrich's faith in reason, and Nesbitt's weakness for pluralism have revolutionized thinking in the field of social movements. Contemporary reflections on power and authority are more in tune with grassroots oriented approaches towards the process of human empowerment. Power is central to the understanding and practice of politics. It can be exercised on three levels: through the ability to make or influence decisions, through the ability to set agenda and prevent decisions being made, and through the ability to manipulate what people think and want. Power is the ability to influence the behavior of others based upon the capacity to reward or punish. By contrast, authority is the right to influence others based upon their acknowledged duty to obey. Weber distinguished between the three kinds of authority: traditional authority based upon the custom and history, charismatic authority, the power of personality, and legal rational authority derived from the formal powers of an office or post. Authority provokes deep political and ideological disagreements. Some regard it as an essential to the maintenance of an ordered, stable, and healthy society, providing individuals with clear guidance and support. Others want that authority tends to be the enemy of liberty and undermines the reason and moral responsibility, Authority tends to lead to authoritarianism. Legitimacy refers to the rightfulness of a political system. It is crucial to the stability and long-term survival of a system of rule because it is regarded as justified or acceptable. Legitimacy may require conformity to widely accepted constitutional rules and broad public support, but it may also be manufactured through a process of ideological manipulation and control for the benefit of political or social elites. Here we want to wind up today's lecture. Thank you so much for your kind attention.